Look, right now it's Tesla's world, everyone else paying rent.
More price cuts are coming. Battery prices down 14% this year, 40% by 2025.
We think they will introduce this mass market next gen EV model in 2024. Elon Musk has been talking about it more recently.
All that and more. So let's get to it. Tesla is up about $0.50 in the pre-market, sitting at $257.18. It'll be interesting to see which way the indicators break. I'm kind of hoping for a pullback early on. Tesla's about to release their Q4 numbers, and I'm hoping there's another spot for me to buy around 250. But as I've been told, hope is not a strategy. If the opening bell spikes, I probably will place a quick put in, expiring at the end of the week, with the aspiration of 100% gain. But again, this is all speculation. There's no telling which way the stock will break.
I do want to switch gears here and talk about EV demand, because this has been one of the stories that's really emerged, that it just feels like all of these automakers really miscalculated how much demand there would be for EVs. Now you're seeing those production targets get cut. How does that factor into how you're thinking about Tesla? Is that a bear case for Tesla, or does Tesla just command more of maybe a shrinking pie?
Yeah, Katie, I think that's a great point. Look, right now it's Tesla's world, everyone else paying rent when it comes to electric vehicles. And I think they're doubling down. You look what's happened in Detroit, GM, Ford actually peeling back a little from electric vehicles, some of the foreign automakers. Look, demand's definitely softened. Price wars have come through, but a lot of those storms have now passed. I think for Tesla specifically, unit volume looks strong in China. I think there's going to be a record quarter for China, in terms of Q4. You go into next year, I think demand actually starts to accelerate a bit relative to where people thought. I think for the overall industry, it's still a massive transformation, but now you're starting to maybe peel back a bit in terms of, okay, this is not going to 40% penetration, maybe it's 25, 30.
Tesla can't build them all, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they're not going to scale back their production. If they can build it, and build it well, people will buy it. But what everybody's finding out is that it's not as easy as Tesla makes it look. The longer they hold off on being able to make this powertrain as efficient as humanly possible, the further Tesla pulls ahead. Tesla has been doing this way longer and better than everyone else doing EVs. Superior battery technology, superior software, superior manufacturing when it comes to battery electric vehicles. The other players, those guys on lap one, they're not even in the same league. They're not even in the same sport. As Brian Sullivan is fond of saying, people don't want EVs, they want Teslas.
Think about all those Chinese EV makers. How does Tesla compete overseas?
They've done it. I mean, I think a lot of the price war, this was a poker move for the ages by Musk. Cut prices, focus on units, and that's why right now this has been flex the muscles in Beijing.
All that noise about BYD overtaking Tesla as the EV leader, well, they're talking about plug-in hybrids, and I imagine there's going to be a demand for those in the interim. But like I've said before, the plug-in hybrid, that is the natural stepping stone to just having a battery electric vehicle. Plug-in hybrids should not be called EVs. They should be called ICE vehicles. That convoluted powertrain does assess some of the fuel efficiency requirements that ICE vehicles needed to address maybe a decade ago, but they too have been displaced. Battery electric vehicles are way better than any other powertrain when it comes to functionality, performance, and style. Pretty soon, they're going to be way cheaper. Shout out to the next gen vehicle. The Model Y is the best-selling vehicle in 2023, despite being damn near double the price of number 2 and number 3. What's going to happen when Tesla puts their logo on a car that costs less than $30,000 before incentives?
Would you say 2023 did not disappoint? I mean, did you feel like there were a lot of great moments when it came to the EV space?
Look, 2023 certainly didn't disappoint at all. Look, the big picture here is the EV market's continuing to boom as prices come down. And I think expect 30% year-over-year growth globally, from 10.5 million units in 2022 to close to 14 million units this year. This means that almost 20% of all cars sold globally are EVs today. That's stunning.
Seems kind of contrary, the US is lagging behind the rest of the world. But make no mistake, the US will catch up. It'll just take some time for the legacy auto manufacturers to get their together. Or some foreign automakers may fill the gap.
More price cuts are coming. Battery prices down 14% this year, 40% by 2025. We're entering into a world of EV dominance over the next decade. Big story. Will BYD, Tesla battle for the throne? I think in 2023, Tesla's going to keep the crown. They're probably going to sell about 1.8 million units to 1.6 for BYD. But by 2024, BYD is growing faster than anyone. They'll probably outsell Tesla. Big question. Who wins the cost down war, and how soon can Tesla get that $25,000 car on the road?
If you don't include hybrids in those figures, there's no way they're going to catch Tesla. Tesla's growing at an alarming rate when you're just talking about battery electric vehicles. And the true crowning metric of battery electric vehicles is how much does it take you to make a pure battery electric vehicle? How much are you able to sell it for? That's where the margins come into play. And as I said before, Tesla has industry-leading margins when it comes to battery electric vehicles.
Yeah, look, and you had the Cybertruck unveiling and got those up and out, or the beginning of getting those out. Garrett, what did you make? You had a buy rating. You both liked Tesla as a stock. Were you happy with the performance of Tesla in 2023? And is it a buy for 2024 going forward, Garrett?
It was a great year for Tesla. The stock has more than doubled year to date. So they have a lot of momentum. Steve mentioned declining battery costs. Their unit costs have come down for 3 straight quarters, and lithium prices have really plummeted.
What? Are you telling me the most expensive part of the battery electric vehicle is coming down in cost? I wonder what that's going to do for the margins. Don't worry about that.
You know, they have a lot of tailwinds on the cost side. Also, the UAW deal increases the costs of their competitors, the Detroit 3, by a significant amount. So, you know, Tesla has a lot of tailwinds at its back heading into the new year. We have a buy on it still, $300 12-month price target. So we think it's going to be another really good year for the company in 2024.
$300 12-year price target. My fair value estimate of $364 in the bear case sounds a little less far-fetched when you're looking at Dan Ives and Garrett Nelson.
We think they will introduce this mass market next-gen EV model in 2024. Elon Musk has been talking about it more recently. We think next year's the year. It probably won't be at a $25,000 price point, just because that was a promise made 4 years ago, you know, pre-COVID and pre-inflation. But we think it'll probably be somewhere in the range of a $30,000 to $35,000 price point for the base model. But we like Tesla a lot here.
The pricing will be a little bit higher than $25,000. I do believe the base model, the one that'll be closer to the robo-taxi, built for utilitarian purposes, that initial offering will be below $30,000. Maybe not by much. And after taxes and fees, more than likely over $30,000, but they're going to have that sticker price under $30,000. If their new manufacturing process indeed cuts the cost in half, coupled with lower battery costs, Tesla may surprise everyone and price this thing under $25,000. How long it'll stay that way? Well, I guess we'll have to see how fast they can push those things out of Giga Texas. But once Giga Mexico comes online, its sole purpose, pushing out those next-gen vehicles, all bets are off. Those things might become extra cheap. You gotta understand, the majority of the margins that will come with this vehicle will be when they solve full self-driving. And they will solve it. It's like lidocaine. Just give it time.
Yeah, and Garrett, just quickly, which names, if people want to write them down, which ones do you have buy ratings on going forward?
So it's a pretty short list right now. It's Tesla, Ferrari, luxury automaker, but about $65 billion market cap. And then in the EV space, the one name aside from Tesla that we like is Polestar, ticker PSNY.
Steve, you know, BYD is a name that I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for. We know they were battling neck and neck. Which of the two companies, that and Tesla, could get more vehicles out? It's one that Buffett liked. It had a growth trajectory that some would say Tesla was more in an intermediate growth phase after sort of more surging. Is BYD also a name? Would you say those are both stocks that you like, Steve?
Absolutely. And look, there's just no disputing this. BYD is simply put growing faster than Tesla. So I think if you're looking for other names to look at, Tesla, BYD for sure. Look at the Koreans. Hyundai and Kia are doing awfully well. And you've got to give Rivian credit. I mean, they've been in this EV auto space for 6-7 years. They're already selling half the vehicles that GM and Ford are at 52,000 units this year. They've just raised their plans and they're heading toward profitability. So they're getting it right. The big question is, what the heck happened to Toyota, GM, Ford, the legacy manufacturers with all of this R&D money, this global capacity? They just didn't get the memo on EVs. I think they're going to be punished. And then there's a whole slew of firms that I think just don't make the cut. You know, Lucid really on air support here, being knocked out of the NASDAQ 100, losing dramatic amounts on every vehicle. So it's going to be a tale of two cities, the winners pulling away and some laggards really struggling to stay in the game.
The F-150 Lightning had a lot of excitement surrounding it, and then it just didn't have as much demand as they had hoped, and now they had to cut Ford, had to cut the production by half. You have GM Cruise. Was that a Ford problem? Maybe people didn't want an EV pickup truck. I mean, you have Rivian, but Garrett, what's the final thought? Is EV demand still hot? Do you expect that to still grow, or was it a fad or a phase?
What we've seen is a lot of traditional automakers actually pull back on their EV investments, their EV growth plans. Part of it's because the new UAW deal, you've seen the Detroit 3 pull back, but also part of it is consumers are demanding more hybrids, and automakers are really getting the message that there's a lot more demand for hybrids than pure electric vehicles. And so, you know, you look at Ford, one of the only companies that discloses their EV results. They lost $36,000 per EV sold in the third quarter. That's just not sustainable. And so the companies themselves are making decisions to pivot their portfolios going forward. And so I think you're going to see a whole lot more hybrids being planned in the future, and a bit of a pullback on EVs just because consumers aren't demanding them.
Yeah, the majority of what BYD produces is considered hybrids. They do have a smattering of battery electric vehicles, but nowhere close to what Tesla is producing. I guess this has to be the rubric for legacy auto, although they're so far behind GM, Ford. I'm just thinking far-sighted, you know? What does 2031 look like, 2032? But in the next 5 years, between now and 2027, 2028, there will be a place for hybrids here in America, and there is money to be made. But what do you do after that? Hybrids are the natural stepping stone. Every hybrid purchased right now, in 3 to 5 years, those are going to be EV customers. More than likely, Tesla customers. Past 2028, your vehicles sold are going to dwindle. Much like the horse and carriage in 1915, it's going to be painfully obvious that you're going to be a novelty at best because you can't make the transition. It's hard for me to fault them for pivoting, but I guess you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. In conclusion, 3 bulls on today's show: Dan Ives, Garrett Nelson, and Steve Wesley, each with their own take, all bullish on Tesla. Dan Ives continues to pound the table. Steve Wesley thinks BYD is growing a little bit faster than Tesla, but I'm in the camp that plug-in hybrids, those don't count as EVs. Show me your battery electric vehicle numbers and we'll talk. And Garrett Nelson, on top of Tesla and Ferrari, like some Polestar. I like that deep dig. But the one thing I disagree with Garrett on is that the hybrids are the solution. All this noise about an EV slowdown, Tesla's going to have a record-breaking quarter. What's that say about EV demand? Can't even compete with the Model Y right now. What happens when they unveil that next-gen vehicle? If there are issues with EV demand, it's definitely not a Tesla problem. That's all I've got for you today. Be easy. Peace.